The fluorescent lights of Terminal C flickered overhead as Sarah Chen stood frozen at the departure gate, her carry-on bag slipping from her trembling fingers. 30 feet away, her ex-husband Marcus was laughing. That cruel, performative laugh she'd endured for 7 years of marriage. But he wasn't alone. Oh my God! Is that actually her? The voice belonged to Vanessa, Marcus's new wife, her designer heels clicking against the polished floor as she clutched his arm. Marcus, honey, you said she was struggling, but I didn't realize it was this bad. Sarah's worn cardigan suddenly felt like a spotlight. Her sensible flats, purchased on clearance 3 months ago, might as well have been concrete blocks. Around them, travelers slowed their pace, sensing drama the way sharks sense blood in water. Marcus turned, his eyes landing on Sarah with practiced disdain. Sarah, still flying commercial, I see. He glanced at the departure board. Economy to Chicago. Some things never change. The crowd was forming now. Phones coming out. This was the moment Marcus loved. The public stage, the captive audience, the opportunity to remind everyone how far he'd risen. But what Marcus didn't know was that in exactly 90 seconds, his entire world was about to detonate. Before we continue, tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing your locations. Now back to the story. 18 months earlier, Sarah had signed divorce papers in a Century City law office while Marcus complained about the traffic. He'd worn a Rolex she'd helped him purchase. Back when his startup was barely afloat. Back when she'd worked 2 jobs to keep their apartment while he chased his dreams. You're getting a fair deal, his lawyer had said, sliding papers across mahogany. Mrs. Chen should consider herself fortunate. Fair. $50,000 and their rusted Honda Civic. Marcus kept the company. The one she'd believed in before anyone else. The one she'd sacrificed everything to support. 3 weeks later, that company sold for $87 million. 2 weeks after that, Marcus married Vanessa Park in a ceremony that flooded Instagram with champagne fountains and designer everything. Sarah saw the photos while eating instant ramen in her studio apartment. The walls so thin she could hear her neighbor's television. What Marcus's lawyers hadn't discovered during their divorce. Sarah Chen had a trust fund, $25 million, activated on her 30th birthday, 2 weeks after the divorce finalized. Her grandmother's final letter had been clear. Use this to see who loved you for you. So Sarah had hidden the money, lived in the studio apartment, worked at a non-profit for barely minimum wage, and watched. She watched as friends stopped calling, as former colleagues deleted her from LinkedIn, as Marcus posted photos of his perfect life while she wore clearance clothes and ate 99-cent ramen. For 18 months, she stayed invisible. Today, the test was ending. The non-profit pays enough, Sarah said quietly in the terminal, meeting Marcus's eyes. Vanessa laughed, sharp enough to cut glass. A non-profit. How adorable. Marcus told me you always lacked ambition. Marcus stepped closer, energized by the growing crowd. Look, Sarah. No hard feelings, right? You got your settlement. I got the business I built. We built, Sarah said softly. The business I built, Marcus continued louder now. Everyone moved on. Some of us just moved on better than others. He squeezed Vanessa's waist. Much better. The crowd had grown to 20 people. A loose semicircle of strangers witnessing the destruction of whatever dignity Sarah had left. She could see it in their eyes. Pity mixed with judgment. The dumpy ex-wife. The successful former husband. Tale as old as time. You know what your problem always was? Marcus was performing now, voice carrying. No vision. No ambition. You were content being small. Hell, you're still small. Still flying economy. Still dressing like you shop at. Excuse me, Ms. Chen? The voice cut through Marcus's monologue like a blade. A woman in an impeccable navy suit approached, her badge identifying her as Marina Volkov, Private Aviation Concierge Services. Behind her stood 2 men in matching uniforms. Sarah turned, her expression carefully neutral. Yes. Your aircraft is ready for boarding. We've completed the pre-flight inspection, and your crew is standing by. Marina's smile was professional but warm. We can escort you to the private terminal whenever you're ready. The terminal seemed to hold its breath. Marcus's face went through several colors. There must be some mistake. No mistake, sir. Marina's voice had cooled several degrees. Ms. Chen's Gulfstream G650 arrived from Seattle this morning. We have your preferred refreshments on board, and your meeting in New York has been confirmed. Vanessa's mouth had fallen open. Several people in the crowd now had their phones out, recording. Sarah picked up her carry-on bag. Thank you, Marina. She paused, then turned to Marcus. You were saying something about ambition? His face had gone pale. Sarah, when did you? Some of us don't announce every success on Instagram, Sarah said quietly. She looked at the crowd, at the phone's recording, at Marcus's frozen expression. And some of us remember that the people who support you when you have nothing matter more than the people who only show up when you have everything. She walked toward the private elevator. Behind her, Vanessa's frantic whisper carried, Marcus, you told me she got almost nothing in the divorce. The elevator doors closed. For exactly 5 seconds, Sarah felt victorious. Then her phone exploded. The video hit 10 million views before her plane even took off. Someone had edited it perfectly. Marcus's mocking voice, Vanessa's cruel laugh, the crowd's judgment, then Marina's interruption and the complete reversal. The internet was doing what it does. Picking sides, creating narratives, destroying reputations in real time. By the time Sarah landed in New York, the video had 40 million views. Marcus's Instagram, usually updated 3 times daily, had gone completely dark, but Sarah's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Unknown numbers, former friends, media outlets. Everyone wanted a piece of the story. Her assistant Lauren's text was frantic. Boss, you're trending globally. Every outlet wants an interview. What do you want me to tell them? Sarah typed back, no comment. But she knew that wouldn't be enough. She'd just humiliated Marcus in front of 60 million people. And men like Marcus didn't take humiliation quietly. She just didn't know how bad it would get. The first attack came 36 hours later. Marcus posted a statement, perfectly crafted, probably written by a PR team. He apologized for any comments that appeared insensitive. He emphasized his tremendous respect for Sarah. He wished her nothing but success. The comments were disabled. It was damage control. Marcus was trying to look reasonable while Sarah looked vengeful. Then came the second attack. Vanessa started giving interviews. She told everyone Sarah had planned the whole thing. That the private jet was rented just for show. That Sarah had deliberately shown up at that terminal knowing they'd be there. She painted Sarah as a manipulative ex-wife staging a revenge plot. And people believed it. The narrative started shifting. Hashtag was it staged began trending. Think pieces appeared questioning Sarah's motives. The internet, which had celebrated her 24 hours ago, was now turning skeptical. Lauren called, panicked. Boss, we need to respond. The story is getting away from us. Let it go, Sarah said. We can't let it go. 3 donors just pulled their support. Women are withdrawing from the nonprofit because they don't want to be associated with drama. I said let it go. But Sarah's stomach was twisting. The women she'd built the nonprofit to help were being scared away. The work that mattered was collapsing because of one viral moment. She'd started something she couldn't control. The third attack was nuclear. Marcus's lawyer released a statement claiming Sarah had failed to disclose significant assets during divorce proceedings. The implication was clear. She'd committed fraud. It was technically false. Sarah received her trust fund after the divorce finalized. But the lawyer's statement made it sound like deliberate deception. TMZ ran with it. Private jet wife hid millions during divorce. Within hours, the narrative completed its flip. Sarah wasn't the underestimated ex-wife anymore. She was the manipulative woman who'd scammed her husband, staged a viral moment, and was now playing victim. The internet had turned completely. Sarah watched it happen from her studio apartment, her phone buzzing with reporters, strangers, former friends all wanting comment. Hate mail started arriving at her nonprofit. Board members called emergency meetings. 2 major donors pulled millions in funding. Everything she'd built for 18 months was collapsing in 72 hours. Lauren's voice was desperate. Boss, we need crisis management. We need lawyers. I know what we need, Sarah said quietly. She ended the call and dialed a number she'd been avoiding. Diana Rothstein answered on the first ring. I was wondering when you'd call. Diana Rothstein's office overlooked Central Park. She was 73, silver-haired, and had built a pharmaceutical empire before selling it for billions. She didn't waste time on pleasantries. You're losing, Diana said, sliding a folder across her desk. Marcus is 3 moves ahead. Your nonprofit is hemorrhaging support. Your reputation is destroyed. Within a week, you'll be completely buried. I know. So what are you going to do about it? Sarah looked at the folder. She didn't need to open it to know what was inside. Diana had done the homework. Marcus's financial records, business dealings, private emails, everything she'd need to destroy him completely. I don't want to fight this way, Sarah said. Then you'll lose. It's that simple. Diana's voice was sharp. You started a war when you walked through that terminal with your private jet waiting. You can't start a war and then complain about the weapons your enemy uses. So I should become him? Manipulate every narrative. Destroy anyone who threatens me. You should understand that being right doesn't matter. Power matters. Narrative matters. And right now, Marcus has both. Sarah felt something hardening inside her. She thought about Maria, the woman who'd applied to her nonprofit with 3 kids and $50. She thought about the dozens of women like Maria being turned away because donors were scared of controversy. She thought about Marcus's laugh in that terminal. His certainty that she was nothing. She opened the folder. Tell me what's in here, Sarah said. Diana smiled. Everything you need to end this. The documents were devastating. Tax evasion schemes Marcus's accountants had recommended. Emails discussing inflating his personal brand at the expense of company stability. Text messages where he joked about idiots who invested in his company without realizing he was planning an exit strategy that would benefit only him. Proof that Marcus had used company resources for personal expenses, his wedding, his honeymoon, luxury vehicles. Hidden from board members through creative accounting that was possibly legal but absolutely unethical. Where did you get this? Sarah asked. I have resources. The question is, will you use it? If you're still watching right now, you're exactly the kind of viewer I love. Subscribe so I can keep giving you thrilling stories. Hit that bell so you never miss what happens next. Sarah thought about her grandmother's letter, about authenticity and living with integrity, about the test she'd designed to see who people really were. Then she thought about the women being turned away from her nonprofit, about lives that could be changed if she could just survive this. If I do this, Sarah said slowly, I become exactly what Marcus accused me of being, calculating, ruthless, destructive. No, Diana corrected. If you do this, you become someone who understands that you can't help anyone if you're buried. Sometimes you have to fight with the weapons you're given, not the weapons you wish you had. Sarah looked out at Central Park. Somewhere down there, people were having the worst days of their lives. Marriages ending, identities dissolving. She could help them, but only if she survived. Schedule the press conference, Sarah said. Tomorrow morning. I'll release everything. Diana's smile was sharp. Now you're learning. Marcus heard about the press conference 30 minutes before it started. Just enough time to panic, not enough time to stop it. His lawyer tried calling. Vanessa texted frantically. His PR team scrambled. But Sarah had learned something from Diana. Sometimes you don't play defense. Sometimes you go nuclear. She stood at a podium in a hotel conference room, facing 24 cameras and 50 reporters. She wore a black suit Diana had loaned her. Her hair was professional. Her posture was strong. For the first time in 18 months, she looked like someone who had $25 million. Thank you for coming, Sarah began. I'm here to address the accusations against me, and to share information about my ex-husband that I think the public deserves to know. In the back, Lauren stood ready to post everything to social media simultaneously. First, The claim that I hid assets during my divorce. Sarah's voice was steady. I received my trust fund exactly 2 weeks after my divorce finalized. The timing was determined by my grandmother's will, not by me. Any lawyer reviewing the documents can confirm this. The suggestion that I committed fraud is demonstrably false. She paused, letting cameras flash. Second, during our 7-year marriage, I personally contributed $214,000 to Marcus Reeves's startup. This came from my salary working 2 jobs, from my savings, from family loans. During our divorce, his lawyers valued my contribution at $0. They claimed I was simply a supportive spouse, not a business partner. She let that sink in. 3 weeks after our divorce, that company sold for $87 million. Murmurs in the room. But I'm not here to relitigate my divorce. Sarah's voice hardened. I'm here to show you who Marcus Reeves actually is. She nodded to Lauren, who began distributing folders. Inside those folders, you'll find documentation of tax evasion schemes his accountants recommended. Emails where he discusses inflating his brand value while destabilizing his company. Text messages where he mocks the investors who trusted him, calling them idiots who didn't realize he was planning an exit that would leave them with worthless shares. The room erupted. Sarah raised her hand. You'll also find proof that Marcus used company resources for personal expenses, his wedding, his honeymoon, luxury vehicles. These expenses were hidden from board members through accounting practices that, while possibly legal, are absolutely unethical. More questions shouted from every direction. Marcus will claim I obtained these illegally, but the truth is, I obtained them through shared cloud storage we never separated and financial advisors who thought I still had access because Marcus never formally removed my permissions. Everything I'm sharing was either given to me or was technically still accessible through accounts we shared during marriage. She paused, making eye contact with every camera. I'm releasing these documents not for revenge, but because Marcus Reeves built an empire on a lie. He took credit for work he didn't do. He pushed out partners who helped him succeed. And when his ex-wife showed up at an airport with a private jet, proving she wasn't the failure he needed her to be, he tried to destroy her. Sarah's voice dropped, but somehow carried more weight. He tried to destroy my reputation, my nonprofit, the women I help. He weaponized every tool he had to bury me. So now I'm showing the world exactly what kind of man does that. She closed her folder. I'll take questions now. The fallout was instantaneous and catastrophic. Within an hour, Marcus's company launched an internal investigation. His board called an emergency meeting. 3 major investors demanded answers. The SEC announced a review of his tax records. The text messages mocking investors were particularly damaging. They painted him as someone who viewed his supporters with contempt. The evidence of using company funds for personal expenses triggered multiple lawsuits. Marcus Reeves wasn't just embarrassed. He was facing legal consequences that could destroy everything he built. His social media went dark. His lawyer released a statement claiming the documents were taken out of context. But nobody cared about context anymore. The internet had its villain. And this time it was Marcus. Sarah's phone rang that night. Marcus. She almost didn't answer, but something made her accept the call. You destroyed me, Marcus said. His voice was hollow. I exposed you. There's a difference. Those documents were private. Those emails were taken out of context. Were they? Or did they just reveal who you actually are? Silence. You could have walked away, Marcus finally said. After the airport. You could have won quietly. But you needed to annihilate me. You tried to destroy my nonprofit first. You scared away women who needed help just to hurt me. You weaponized every tool you had. Because you humiliated me in front of 60 million people. Because you couldn't handle being wrong. Sarah's voice was steady. You spent 7 years telling me I was too small, too unambitious, too ordinary. And when it turned out I wasn't, you couldn't accept it. You needed me to be the failure so you could be the success. She heard him breathing. I'm sorry, Marcus said finally. For what it's worth. What are you sorry for? Be specific. For mocking you. For taking credit for your sacrifices. For, his voice cracked, for becoming someone you couldn't recognize. A year ago, this apology would have meant everything. Now Sarah just felt tired. Thank you for saying that, she said quietly. I hope you mean it. What happens now? Now you face consequences. Just like I did when you tried to destroy me. Your nonprofit is getting hundreds of donations an hour. Diana Rothstein doubled her investment. You won. Completely. Sarah looked around her studio apartment. The same thin walls, the same simple life. Did I? Because I don't feel like a winner. You're not like me, Marcus said. Aren't I? I used private documents to destroy your reputation. I weaponized your worst moments. How is that different from what you did? Marcus didn't answer. I'll stop, he said finally. Tell my lawyers to back off. No more media attacks. Just no more documents. Please. I don't have anything left to release. That was everything. So we're done. We were done the day you signed our divorce papers, Sarah said. Everything after was just consequences. She hung up, and for the first time in 72 hours, her phone stopped ringing. 3 months later, Sarah stood in her nonprofit's office, reviewing applications. The viral moment had faded. The internet had moved on to new villains and new heroes. Hashtag airport private jet was now a meme people referenced without remembering the details. Marcus had resigned from his company. The SEC investigation was ongoing. Vanessa had filed for divorce. He deleted all his social media and disappeared from public life. Sarah's nonprofit had more funding than ever, not because of the publicity, but because the publicity had forced a conversation about how divorce laws favored those who took credit over those who sacrificed. The work continued. Quietly, deliberately, a letter arrived one morning. No return address. Inside was a photo. A woman with 3 children, standing in front of a modest house with a sold sign in the yard. The letter read, Dear Ms. Chen, your nonprofit helped me leave my husband 18 months ago with 3 kids and $50. Yesterday I closed on my first house. I'm writing to say thank you. Not for the money, though that mattered, but for showing me that leaving wasn't the end. It was the beginning. I watched your airport video. I saw the press conference. I saw everything that happened after. And here's what I learned. Sometimes you have to fight, even when fighting makes you uncomfortable. Sometimes survival means using weapons you wish you didn't need. My ex-husband told me I'd never make it without him. That I was nothing. But we're thriving. And every time he sees us thriving, I think about you in that airport, wearing your worn cardigan, letting him mock you while your jet waited. You showed me that being underestimated isn't weakness. It's strategy. Thank you for refusing to stay small. Maria Santos. Sarah pinned the letter to her bulletin board. Then she went back to work. Because viral moments fade, but foundations last. And Sarah Chen had finally learned the difference.